me get started. So today we're talking about leads not responding. Are you having issues with your leads not responding to you when you're trying to call them, when you're trying to message them, when you're trying to get them to talk to you? If that's you, chat in yes or chat in me. Because what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about some techniques and strategies to help you get unghosted, to help you get these people to answer you so that you can actually build a relationship or create some rapport or even convert them into an appointment, buyer or seller. So real quick, the question is, how do you get complete strangers to respond to a salesperson when they are not ready to buy and don't have questions they want answered? It's a rhetorical question. This is what we're going to be working on today. We're going to be answering this today for you to show you best practices around making that happen. First, though, I have a quick poll that I want you guys to answer for me. I'm going to drop this. I just want to see who is new here. We got a bunch of polls. Here we go. I just dropped a poll. Click on that for me. I want you to answer whether or not you've been on a training with us before or not. We usually end up with about 50% of people who are new. So let's see how many of you have been here on a training with me before. Go ahead and answer the poll. It should have popped up on your screen. Okay, there we go. Got a bunch of people answering. Excellent. Okay. Yeah, we're like 75-25. 75% of people are new, 25% of people are returning. Okay, great. Just going to end the poll now. Thanks for doing that. And let's move on. So our sales training content is the best in the industry. If you don't know who I am, my name is Dale Archdekin. I'm the founder of Smart Sales Coaching. The reason it's the best in the industry is that I personally, my partners and I scaled a real estate team in the Philly market from 5 agents and 100 transactions to over 30 agents and 650 plus transactions per year. And at the time, we were one of the top 5 mega teams for KW. I had an ISA department that I built and managed and optimized, and my ISAs were able to produce between 36 and 60 transactions per person in their first 12 months in the business. And that is just an average mix of leads. We weren't running anything fancy, nothing expensive, none of the Zillow Flex stuff. It's just your average internet leads as well as some cold outbound prospecting. And the people that we hired as ISAs were just people off the street who didn't have real estate experience. So they weren't pulling from their own sphere of influence or anything like that. I personally, when I was in production, took on average between 5 to 7 listings per month from cold outbound calling alone. So I have a lot of experience with cold outbound calling. And now my company, for the last 9 years, has been training thousands of agents across the US and Canada. And our clients include those in the top 5% of the Real Trends mega teams, the Real Trends list of 1,000 mega teams. So this is who we are, and this is where the information is coming from. And the reason that I'm telling you this is because anybody can tell you how to talk to leads or how to convert leads. And a lot of trainers and gurus in our industry are only talking from theory. They've really never done it before themselves. That, or they haven't done it to a very high degree. They haven't done it on a high level. They haven't done it at any kind of volume. And I personally did it for many years, and now my agents and ISAs were very successful at converting their leads, and now our students are very successful using our techniques and strategies to actually convert their leads. So that's why I'm telling you all of that. So here's a deal that I have for you in our webinar today. I'm going to give you a sample of our high quality training now for free. And at the end, I'm going to offer you access to a 2-hour appointment masterclass. Does that sound fair? If that's fair, chat in yes. Okay, great. So I want to just share this with you because we're talking about getting unghosted. And, you know, I want to point out to you in our industry that the biggest leading indicator of sales and commissions is new weekly buyer and seller appointments. So that's a basic concept, right? But a lot of you are probably struggling to get those weekly appointments. We polled over 4,000 agents in our database and asked them, what's holding you back from setting more weekly appointments? And we gathered up all their answers. And these are the most common answers that they gave. And we consolidate them down into these categories. If you're not hitting your goals, then you probably aren't going on enough appointments every week. If you aren't going on enough appointments every week, then you probably aren't making enough asks in the right way. And if you aren't making enough asks, you probably just don't have enough leads who are looking for your services right now. And it's probably for one of the following reasons, which were the poll results that we got back from these 4,000 agents. And these 4,000 agents, collectively, the most common answers were a lack of their own motivation, a fear of rejection, not enough leads. They said their leads aren't good. They don't know who to contact. They don't have enough time to work their leads. They don't know what to say. Leads don't respond, which is a big one that we're talking about today. The agents can't overcome objections, and that the agents have trouble staying on track. If any of these are you, chat in me. Chat in me if you struggle with these bullet points here. Yeah, pretty common, right? So I can boil these into three main categories for you, and you're probably struggling with one or more of these categories. Category one, the most important one, scripting. What it is that you're saying, your written and your spoken scripting. If you don't have good written or spoken scripting, you aren't going to get good results. Think about your interactions with other salespeople over the years as a consumer. When you're a consumer and you interact with a salesperson who does not know how to conduct a sales conversation with you, or is nervous or unprepared, how likely are you to interact or to transact with that salesperson? Not at all. Not only that, but I pointed out to you that when I was in production, I took between 5 to 7 listings on average per month from cold outbound prospecting. I was calling FSBOs, expireds, for rent by owners. I was calling people who either were opposed to talking to an agent or who had not thought about actually using an agent. And so I had to go from a dead stop to teeing up an appointment with somebody. And in order to do that, you have to have a high degree of scripting skill. That's why you see a lot of the agents who regularly work FSBO and expired business. They do it a lot. They do it every single day, and they are constantly practicing and staying sharp with their skills. Likewise, if you're buying leads from whatever lead source you're getting them from wherever you're getting them from, however you're generating them, you have to have good scripting, whether it's written or spoken, in order to be able to convert people into appointments and into closings. And if you don't have strong scripting, then it saps your confidence. You don't have confidence, and you won't get good results. And so then you won't keep lead generating. Who's going to keep lead generating if you don't have confidence, you get scared, or you get nervous, and you don't get good results? Most people would quit. Of course they would, right? So this is one of the number one that we see that has the most impact on whether or not you're going to take the action you need to take and generate the leads you need to generate. The next one is schedule. And a lot of agents have a chaotic and unproductive schedule. They aren't able to stay on track, or they don't even know what the track is, right? They don't know what they should be doing at any given moment, and they don't have a schedule that they follow. And then, and what that does is creates a lack of consistency. And I'm going to tell you this, that consistency actually trumps skill. If you can be consistent, you don't need as sharp of a skill set. You don't need to be as good if you can be more consistent. So that's number 2 on the list. Number 3 is lead cultivation. These are the 3 struggles, right? A lack of lead sources and conversion systems. So these are the big 3 that we see agents struggle with a lot. And today we're going to be working on the scripting portion of it, right? So the title is Get Unghosted, and it's how to get these people to respond to you, how to get them to message you back. And, if you can't get them on the phone for a phone call, then getting them to respond to your text messages and emails, you need to get that so that you can have some form of interaction to get them onto a phone call or to get them face-to-face with you so that you can convert them into business or convert them into an appointment or convert them into a closing. All right, so we're working on scripting today. And first, I want to talk about this. Let's talk about your activity, because this is a big one that as I'm working with real estate teams and as I'm working with agents out there, a lot of it comes down to a lack of activity, frankly, right? Agents aren't making the outreach that they need to make. They aren't trying to talk to their leads. They aren't doing it consistently. They aren't doing it aggressively. They don't have a system. They don't have consistency. If you just show up one day and you're going to try to talk to some leads and you aren't prepared, you don't know what you're going to say, and you give up after 20 minutes or 30 minutes and you don't come back around to it for another week or 2 weeks, you're not going to get any kind of results. And so across our industry, a lot of agents complain about the lead sources that are available that either their team is providing or that they're buying themselves, and they blame it on the leads. They say that the leads aren't motivated. They say that the leads aren't any good. And usually when I'm working with a new agent or a new team, I promise you, 90% of the time, what I find is that the salespeople, the agents, do not have enough activity. It's either not enough, or it's not consistent, or it's not optimized, right? It doesn't make sense. And I'm going to explain to you what I mean by that as I go through these. And I want to start with the activity before I get into the messaging, because it doesn't matter what your messaging is, how good it is, or it doesn't matter what I teach you or the techniques or strategies that I teach you. If you don't take the action, you're not going to get any results. So it has to start with activity first. How many of you watching this right now know that you're not taking enough action or not taking action consistently? If that's you, chat in me. Does everybody see all those me's flying up in the chat right now? That is because this is very common. And I'm hoping, part of the reason that I do this is I'm a salesperson too, and I have to take activity. I have to make sales. I have to have conversations. I have to follow up with leads. And I know that it sucks. And most of the time we don't want to do it, but we have to. That's the nature of our businesses. That's the nature of who we are and what we have to do in order to grow our businesses and to flourish and hit our goals. And I'll just give you the quick trajectory. I went from having to do all of it myself to figuring out how to teach other people to do it, and then having to teach them, hold them accountable, get them to do it, to now where I'm teaching people to teach other people. So there is a trajectory to this. And if you are struggling to hit your goals right now, then the first thing is you have to get into action. And we're going to talk about how to do that now and what activity looks like for you. Once you can get into activity and you can more consistently execute, then the goal for some of you is going to be either hiring part-time or full-time help to come and take off your plate some of these sales activities, to delegate some of these activities, to also build messaging systems and follow-up systems that will help sort of distill through the leads that you have or the leads that you're buying to help put more warm people in front of you or to incubate your leads over time. So let's talk about activity first. How intense are you? This is what really matters most, because I find that a lot of agents just aren't intense enough. Let's look at your last new lead that you just recently got. How quick did you reach out? And, I know that we all know this speed to lead thing. It's just a common phrase that's always been used in our industry. It really does make a huge difference. Not only that you reach out quickly when you receive a new lead, some form of outreach or some form of communication. That's when you're most likely to get a response from a lead or prospect. And also, once they respond to you, how quickly do you get back to them? Because catching them in real time when they actually respond is huge. And if you wait too long, your window is going to pass, right? They're going to move on to something else. They're busy too. We are them. Let's put it that way, right? All of us are consumers. So you know how busy you are. You know how quickly you shift topics, right? If you respond to or reach back out to a salesperson who reached out to you, you're moving on in the next minute, right? Or 2 minutes, 5 minutes, you're on to some other topic at that point usually, right? Unless you're trying to get something, unless you're trying to get answers to something. You've moved on. So the same holds true for your consumers. You've got to get back to them quickly. You've got to reach out to them quickly when they first become a new lead or they first take an action. You've got to respond to them quickly if they respond to you. So how quickly did you reach out? Go look at your leads in your system right now while I'm talking to you. How many times did you attempt to reach that last lead that you got? How many times did you attempt to get in touch with them? Did you reach out the first day one time? Did you reach out the second day? Did you reach out the third day? Did you even make it to a third day, or did you quit or move on to something else before that? I find a lot of times that agents, frankly, will only reach out once or twice and they don't do anything beyond that. So how many times did you attempt? And then how many methods did you use each time that you reached out? What do I mean by that? So you got a new lead. Did you call them? Great. Did you also text them after you called? And after you called and texted, did you also email them? Or did you just leave it to one touch attempt or one response on your part? How many methods did you use? And I'm going to talk about a principle today that I call the bus stop principle, to help you put into context how intensely or how diligently you have to follow up with people in order to actually get them and have it make a difference. So here's some outreach principles for you guys. You're going to always use 3 methods. So in my company, I teach call, text, email. We just call it CTE, call, text, email. Every time you make an outreach, I want you to be using 3 methods if you have the contact info for them. You're going to call them, you're going to text them, and then you're going to either email them or you can DM them, depending on what contact information you have for them. But every time you're reaching out to a lead, it's going to be those 3 in a row. And whether you call first and then text, or whether you text first and then call, you're going to use all 3 of these things. And I'm just going to leave it up to you to decide what order that you do them in. I will say this though. For new leads, I generally follow a pattern of call them. If I can't get them on the phone, I hang up and don't leave voicemail. I then text them because I know that at least 50% of the people who I call are going to look at their text messages, even if they don't answer. Then I'm going to email them. And if the only caveat to this is that if you're responding to a lead, if the lead answers via text, then text them, don't call. If the lead emails back, then email them, don't text or call them. So you start with the channel that they answered you on, and then usually what I'll do is if they don't answer after that, I'll move on and add back in the other 2 channels. Does that make sense? Chat in yes if that makes sense. Okay, now you're going to use these 3 methods to get in touch with them. And the whole point is that you're being intense. And usually day 1 of a new lead for me, whenever I get a new lead, I'm going to hit them twice in the same day. So let's say I start my day in the morning. I have a couple of new leads who have come in from my website or from a lead provider. In the morning, I'm going to call, text, email, and then 4 hours, 6 hours later in the evening before I get done, I'm going to call, text, email again, twice in the same day. I don't promote double dialing or triple dialing. If you don't know what that is, there are some trainers out there who say that you're going to call somebody, and if they don't answer, you hang up and dial them again. Some people say if they don't answer the second time, you hang up again and dial them again. I'm not a proponent of that. I don't do that myself. It pisses me off when people do that and absolutely causes me not to talk to them. So I don't do it to other people. And here's my philosophy around it, is that if you're willing to deal with the negative rapport, with the negative sort of interaction that you create when you do that, if you're willing to deal with it, go for it. I don't have the energy to mess with that kind of stuff anymore. Maybe if I was back in my 20s when I first got started in my career and I had a little more argue in me and felt like dealing with it, then I might do that level of intensity. But at this point, it's my belief and my experience that you just make more people angry than it is worth, as far as I'm concerned. So call once, text once, email once. You can do it twice in the same day for day one, or you can honestly do it twice in a day at any point if you want. I just don't do it back to back. Okay, so let's talk about a 7-day cycle. So what I follow is we used to do, back in the day, we would do like 10 days of pain, 14 days of pain, where you hammer people every single day. Here's what we're finding with a lot less answer rate and a lot more spam calls and text messages that go out is that people very quickly remember to ignore you. And so what I like to do is I follow a 7-day cycle that helps them forget that they're ignoring us. And so we'll do the first 3 days of call, text, email. So let's say it's a new lead. You've got day 1, call, text, email. Day 2, call, text, email. Day 3, call, text, email. And then what we're gonna do is 2 days of no messages. So I've got 3 days of intensity, and then I want 2 days of no messages at all. I want them to forget that they're ignoring me. And when I say no messages, that also means no automation, right? No AI messaging. So we want that turned off for 2 days, and then we'll come back and hit them another 2 days of call, text, email. And here's what I find is that this runs over a 7-day cycle. And if somebody can ignore your 5 days of call, text, email, they probably are not going to respond to you. And they need to be put on your long-term, property searches, your long-term drip campaigns after that point. Move on. You're just going to get diminishing returns if you keep hammering the same people who aren't answering you right now. And in this today, I'm going to be talking about the different messaging that you can use that will help get them to respond to you. But I just want to talk about the cycle first because it makes a difference. I think you all know in your consumer lives that there are certain companies that just keep messaging you over and over and over again, and all they're doing is teaching you to ignore them. But if they go away for a little while, you forget about them, and then you are more likely to respond to them or to at least break the ice. Okay, so that's the 7-day cycle. Let's talk about a 3-day process for old leads. So I have several teams that I work with personally, and what we've found is that they have, a lot of these teams have very big databases of older leads, 30,000 leads, 50,000 leads, 120,000 leads, and there's no way that their agents can get through all of them at the same time. And here's the other thing that I discovered as I was working with these teams. A lot of their agents would go into the pond, right? The pond is like a community pool of leads that haven't been converted. And so the agents who are working the pond would go into the pond, let's say today's the Tuesday, they go in there to do some lead gen on a Tuesday. They filter it looking for people that haven't been communicated with recently, and then they'll just start calling and texting, maybe emailing through it. And then, maybe they get some results, maybe they don't, but then they come back again the next day to do some lead gen again, and they order the list for people who haven't been communicated with, and they start calling and texting and emailing a different set of leads. And what we were finding is that they were only making 1 round of attempt to each lead on average, and they weren't hitting them repetitively each day. And so once we switched their process to say, okay, here's what you're gonna do. You go to the pond, you find a set of leads, let's say 25, 30, up to 50 leads, whatever number of leads you can work in one day. And you're gonna grab that set of leads and you're gonna work them through a 3-day process. You're gonna hit them day 1, call, text, email. Then you're gonna come back, same list. Day 2, call, text, email. Then you're gonna come back day 3, same list of people, and hit them call, text, email. And it tripled the number of responses that all of these agents got, because instead of doing a one-hit attempt to get in touch with somebody one time, they were doing it more intensely over a 3-day process, and they got a lot more responses from these leads. So for old leads, follow this process. Do it 3 days in a row before you stop talking to them specifically. So here's how the process looks. I don't know how many leads you have in your system, but you know, after you've gone through your new leads for the day, anybody who's responded to you, your recent leads, and after you've gone through your nurtures, the people that you actually have tasks set for, once you go to your old lead pile, the people who haven't talked to you historically, and you're going to work through them, grab a set, whatever number of people that you can work for the day, and those people are the ones that you're going to hit for the next 3 days in a row. You will see your responses go up by a lot. Now, you'll see your responses go up by a lot as long as you aren't just hitting the same old leads you've been hitting every day for the last month or two, right? The point is that if you have enough leads who are in your system that you haven't reached out to in a long time, then you put them through the 3-day intensive and you're going to get a lot better response. Okay. Yep, 3 days of CTA, then let the automations resume. And let's talk about the bus stop principle. So when you're trying to get in touch with your leads, I know I said call, text, email, but I just want to put this into context for you. I want you to imagine that you have a child, right? Your kid is in 1st grade, and she is now able to ride the bus on her own. So she rides the bus to school, she gets off the bus when she gets home, and you're there every day to pick her up from the bus stop. Except this day, you're stuck in traffic, and there is no way in hell you're getting to that bus stop when your kid gets there. She's going to get off the bus, and after everybody leaves and goes their own way, she's going to be confused and not know where you are because you were supposed to have been there. Now, you're sitting in your car. How intensely are you going to go through your contact list of neighbors, of friends, of family members, of neighbors' friends, of anybody that you can think of that you would get in touch with to try to make sure that somebody was there to pick your kid up, right? How many times would you call them? How many times would you message them? How many ways would you go about it? You'd call, you'd text, you'd DM, you'd email, you'd do anything that you could and do it multiple times in order to get in touch with somebody to take care of getting your kid from that bus stop. Have you ever worked your leads with that kind of intensity? I bet the answer is not really or never. So the next time that you sit down to work your leads, I want you to think about your kids standing at the bus stop by themselves. It's your responsibility to get in touch with somebody, right? That's the intensity that I want you working leads, except don't double or triple dial, because that's just going to piss them off. Okay, so that's the bus stop principle. Take that one with you. All right, so let's talk about your messaging, AKA your written scripting. Your written scripting is very important. And the reason that your written scripting is very important, and I'm going to ask you this question. You can chat in the answer for me. How often in your day-to-day consumer life, when you aren't ready to buy something and you don't have burning questions to get answered, how often in your life are you responding to or interacting with salespeople? Chat in for me. How often do you want to talk to or interact with a salesperson when you aren't ready to buy something or don't have questions to get answered? I'm looking for a never, right? If it's never, chat in never. People are chatting in never. Yeah, never. Okay, so this is why your written scripting matters the most. If you think about it this way, most of the leads in real estate that we buy are, in most cases, people who aren't ready to transact yet, or people who aren't ready to go see a house, or aren't ready to talk to an agent about their services or get questions answered. That's most of the leads. Some of the leads are people ready to look at a house or want to see a house, but it doesn't mean they want to buy it. Some of the leads want to know what their house is worth, but they aren't necessarily ready to sell it or even figure out which agent to use or if they're going to use an agent at all, okay? So most of the leads that we get aren't trying to interact with us, aren't trying to talk to a salesperson. This is why your messaging, your written scripting matters a lot. Because if you're trying to sell them something via your messaging and they aren't ready to buy something, which means a house or your services, it's going to be a waste of your time. So I want to show you a bad example of messaging first, and then I'm going to show you a good example of messaging. And then I'm going to give you some techniques and strategies that you can use to write your own messaging. So here's a bad example. Let's just say that it's a website registration, the kind that we all get, right? From PPC or Facebook or, social media, whatever. So it's just a registration. This is what bad messaging looks like. Hi, name, this is Agent with Brokerage. Thank you for reaching out to us regarding your home search. I'm an expert in area and I'd love to help you find your next perfect home. Would you be free to chat tomorrow sometime? Okay, I'm gonna roll through these. I'm gonna show you 3 messages that are bad, and then I'm gonna talk through them and tell you why. Here's message 2. The person hasn't answered. Hi, name, this is Agent with Brokerage. I didn't see a response from you. Are you still looking for a home to purchase? I'm happy to help you and your family at whatever stage you're at. Please let me know what you're looking for and when you're thinking of moving. Thank you. And if you've ever written this stuff, chat in me. Here's bad message 3. No answer again, right? This is Agent. Name, this is Agent again. Do you have 5 minutes the next day day or two to discuss the listings I'm sending? I'd like to make sure they're exactly what you want. I realize you might not be ready to buy, but I still want to send relevant homes your way. Please let me know. Agent with Brokerage. Now, guilty of doing it, yeah? Okay, let's talk about what's wrong with this messaging. You see this series of messaging here, right? We already established that if we're not ready to buy or we don't have burning questions, we're not trying to interact with a salesperson. The problem here is that this person is writing very professional messaging every time. They're just reinforcing, I'm a salesperson and I want to offer you something, right? In the first message, this one is not so bad, except that they're saying, I'd love to help you find your next perfect home. This salesperson is offering to be their salesperson. Like message 1, message 1 should not be, I want you to hire me, right? Let me be your agent. And then not only do you want me to choose you as an agent in this first message right here, I'd love to help you, but then you're also asking me to have a phone call with you. You're a strange salesperson. You've just offered to work with me, and now you want to talk to me on the phone. If I had to guess what you want to talk about, it's probably about hiring you to be an agent. Do any of us want to have that conversation with this person if we're not ready to buy or don't have burning questions about buying a house or selling a house? The answer is no, we don't want to do that. Message 2, this person doubles down, right, on this offer. I'm happy to help you and your family at whatever stage you're at. This is too much. It's too far, right? The agent is staying professional and making an offer, again, basically of hiring them. Message 3, I want to send relevant homes your way. I want to make sure I know what you want. Please let me know. Again, professional agent with Brokerage. This is just straightforward sales messaging, right, everybody? Straightforward sales messaging. Salespeople are easy to ignore because they're not real people. So if you keep reinforcing the fact that you're a salesperson, they're going to keep ignoring you. I'm not saying that you say, I'm not a salesperson, but if your messaging sounds like a brochure, sales brochure over and over and over again, you're not going to get a different reaction. You're not going to get them to break that wall of anonymity that they've put up. Okay, let's look at a good example. So I just wrote this one real quick. Message 1, random website registration. Hi, name, this is Agent with Brokerage. It looks like you registered on my website to look at homes for sale. Are you planning on buying in the next few months, or are you just window shopping at this point? Okay, why is this a little bit better? Because 1, we're not offering to be their agent. 2, we've just asked a simple question. Are you buying a home in the next few months? And 3, we actually offered to let them tell us no in message number 1. We are inviting them to say no, not yet, whatever it is. You're much more likely to get a response from a brand new lead if you make it something as simple as this, and if you invite them to tell you no. Notice that in the bad messaging sequence, there was no opportunity to tell this person no. So this is a simple question. Are you buying, or do you want to tell me no or not yet? Here's message 2. They haven't answered. Hey, name, right? So now we're getting a little bit more casual. Hey, name, exclamation point. I didn't get a response from you. I'm more than happy to let you cruise my website, which is just a little bit of implied guilt. I'm going to keep giving you free stuff. Just let me know whether or not you're buying, and what's in it for them, so I don't keep bugging you. Tell me to go away, right? Thanks, -agent. Amy, so we have a question about messaging in the chat. You're not going to send all the same message. I'm showing you message 1, message 2, message 3. So when you do the call, text, email, if I call you, if I'm making my call is probably going to sound like this. My scripting is going to sound like this one. I'm going to hang up. I'm going to text you. This is a text message. The email is going to look like this, only formatted as an email, maybe another line in there or something, but it's pretty much this. Day 2, I'm going to call. It's the same initial message that I'm going to use on my call, but then message 2 is going to look like this, something different, right? And the email is going to look similar to this. So it's going to be text to, email to. And as I was pointing out, just let me know whether or not you're buying, so I don't keep bugging you. There's something in it for this consumer to answer me, the salesperson. And it is not it's more casual, this message is. Now let's go to message 3. So they don't answer again after call to, text to, email to. Let's go to 3. Okay, here's the real deal. My manager won't let me stop following up with you until you let me know whether or not you're buying. Can you help me out? ? And a sweating emoji, okay? No agent name, no lead name. This is casual, right? This is, hey, we know each other. You've seen my 2 other messages. You know who I am. I know who you are. Now I'm just having a conversation with you as a real person, and I'm blaming this on my manager. This message actually gets a lot of responses. And again, we're turning up the guilt meter just a little bit more because you, consumer, are now causing me to get in trouble at my job because you won't answer a simple question. Can you guys understand the psychology in here? I have a question in the chat. What if we have no manager? Do they know that? Who cares? I use this. I don't have a manager. I own the company. All I care about is, can I get you to respond, right? Okay, so this is a good example of using some psychology. And the other thing I want you to understand, somebody said use broker. Don't use broker, use manager. Every consumer understands manager. Not every consumer has a broker or understands what that means. Okay. Good. So question about AI messaging during this. Yes, I would turn off AI messaging while you are making an attempt to get somebody to interact with you. Because my opinion is that AI messaging is used when you are not actively working your leads, or it's used when you're off hours. When you're on and you're lead generating, and you're following up with your leads yourself, you don't want it on because it will mess up your conversation for you. So you want to turn it off, and you want to control the messaging, the cadence, the content yourself, and be there to catch it when somebody responds to you, and they will. Okay, so this is an example of good messaging, and making these kind of shifts will actually get a response for you. All right, so let's just go through some messaging principles. You want to alternate between professional and casual messaging. And usually what I will do is I'm going to start professional, and then I'm going to go casual and more casual. And then after a 3-message series, let's say I'm working new leads, right? And I do the 3 and then the 2, I'll go professional, casual, more casual, take a break, slightly professional, casual, right? for the 2 new messages. Keep it simple. You'll notice, and what I'm saying here is go from simple to simpler. You'll notice that in the good example, it really was just, I just want to know whether you're buying a house or not. And I keep asking that same question in different ways and making it just simpler and simpler and simpler to answer me, not complex. I'm not making an offer. I didn't make any offers in those messages. And I didn't overcomplicate it or make it more complicated to answer. In fact, I want to make it easier and easier and easier to just simply break that ice to get them to respond. If you can't get them to respond, you can't interact with them. So to keep it, if they're not going to respond to complex, you have to make it simpler. Okay. Ask one question, get it answered. This is a good principle. And I'm not saying that you can't ever switch it up or ask a different question. The point is that if you look at some of the messaging that you send, I want you to look in there, and a lot of times what you'll see is that you're asking more than one question. So if you ask more than one question, which one do you want them to answer? They don't know either. So in most cases, when you're speaking to a lead or writing to a lead, ask them one question to answer for you. You can give them an either or question. Are you this or are you that? Are you doing this or are you not, right? You can use either or. But either or is different from asking 2 different questions or even multiple different questions in the same messaging. So if you're talking to a stranger, you're going to be less casual and playful, okay? So meaning you're going to be more professional with strangers. So when you're messaging complete stranger leads, you're going to go from professional to slightly less professional or slightly casual, right? When you have rapport, let's say that you had a prospect that you went and showed a couple of homes to, and you're trying to follow up with them. You can get much more casual / playful. Like one of my favorite messages to a nurture or a follow-up that I have had rapport with or a conversation with is, are we still friends? ? That's it. Are we still friends? ? That's a great message to use with people that you have rapport with or that you've had interactions with. It's not one that I use for cold leads, people that I have no rapport with or haven't interacted with. Okay, salespeople are easy to ignore. Remember this, salespeople are easy to ignore. Real people are not easy to ignore. Real people are harder to ignore. What do I mean by that? If you sound like a salesperson, if you keep showing up as a salesperson, if your messaging keeps sounding like a salesperson, it's very easy to ignore, especially once they've done it the first time. That's why you've got to switch to more casual messaging. Okay, this is another one I want you to remember. Too much discovery via text and email equals no phone call. And this also goes for your AI. If you're using AI and your AI goes too deep and gets too much discovery, or even if you're using a virtual assistant as a ISA making calls for you, if they get too much discovery via text and email, there's no reason to get on the phone with you. Okay, so what you want to do in your written messaging is you need to, it's like fishing. I mean, I don't really like fishing, but I've done it enough times that I know that you've got to get the fish to bite first, and then you kind of jerk the line to set the hook so that you can actually get it in there and it doesn't pop out of their mouth, right? So you got to kind of set the hook, and then you can try to reel them in. So how do I relate that to messaging? It relates to messaging because I have to just get you to answer first. That's the bite on the hook. And then the setting of the hook is get just enough rapport, enough info, or enough interaction to where then I can start to reel you in, which is, can we get on a phone call? Can I get on to a Zoom with you, right? Okay. When taking over for the automation, first you want to be the automation and then introduce the agent, which is you. So don't just interrupt in the middle of an AI interaction and suddenly become the agent. You want to talk as though you're the you take over. You're going to talk as the automation and then introduce the idea of agent, which would be you. Okay, so these are the principles. Now I want to talk about some messaging. I'm going to give you several categories of messaging that you're going to use to write some of your better messaging for yourself. You need to have at least 3 text and email messages series that you're going to use for your most common lead types. And you want to have them that you're going to use when you sit down to work your leads. So as I described it, when you're sitting down to work your leads, you're going to make your call. Then you're going to send your text one if they don't answer. You're going to send your email one if they don't answer. Next day, make your call. If they don't answer, text 2, email 2. Next day, make your call. If they don't answer, text 3, email 3. Have your series built so that you can fire these things off. You make them as a template inside your system. You just fire them off as you're working through your leads. Okay, here's how to build your messaging. And if you read through these, you'll notice some of the messaging that I wrote in the good example takes from these principles. So let's start with the reasons that people ignore you. And you can use these in your messaging, right? They might be busy, or they're not interested, or they don't want to tell you no. I call it the gum in your hair principle, right? All of you know what happens when you get gum in your hair. You just have to cut it out. If you mess with it, it gets worse, right? So that's how people regard us salespeople. If I mess with him, he's going to get worse. If I mess with her, she's going to get worse, and I'm just going to ignore them entirely. So you can use that as messaging. Hey, I know that usually if a salesperson is trying to hit me up, I find it easier to ignore them than to engage, but here's all I want to know, right? That's a message. It's using that principle. They don't want to make a decision, and you represent needing to be ready to make a decision. You can use that in your messaging. Or they're confused. Hey, you might be confused about why I'm reaching out to you. This is what it's actually about. Or they've already decided against using you and they just ignore you. Hey, Mark, I haven't heard back. Does that mean you've already chosen a different agent? If you have, no worries. Just please honor the time we spent together and let me know. Honor the time we spent together is a little bit of a guilt trip, right? Okay. Or they're on vacation. They lost their phone. They don't remember who you are. They got a no phone and don't recognize your number. They keep forgetting to answer. That's happened to me. Have you ever just forgotten to answer somebody? And then at a certain point, the next bullet point, you keep forgetting, and then you get embarrassed that you haven't answered them yet, so you keep not answering them. You just double down on it. That's definitely happened to me. Use it in your messaging. Okay, let's talk about messaging techniques. Here's what you can use. We talked about informal and casual speech. You can use humor, right? One that I like is, it's a two-part message. Message 1 is, hey, Mark, how much does a polar bear weigh? ? And if he doesn't answer, then I say, enough to break the ice. Is this enough? ? I still haven't heard back from you, right? Humor, persistence and repetition, repeating yourself, being persistent, using guilt. I've already shown you a couple of examples of guilt, how you kind of bake it in. I mean, obviously you're not going to say, hey, you're a terrible person for not answering me. But things like to honor the time we spent together, that's a small guilt trip that you're implying. You can use a foreign language, hola, bonjour, arigato, right? You can name their feeling. This helps a lot. Hey, maybe you're just feeling a little overwhelmed with all this messaging. I get it. Can you just let me know X? Get real approach. Hey, I hate talking to salespeople too, believe me, especially when I'm not ready to do anything yet. Maybe that's where you're at. Is that the case? ? Here's another one. Carry on the conversation without them. I've used this effectively with people that are in my sphere or people that I have rapport with. I just carry on the conversation. Hey, Mark, wanted to see how you and the family are doing. Let me know, right? No answer. Next message. Oh, Mark, Mark, I'm doing great. Or Dale, doing great. Kids are awesome. Thanks for reaching out. No answer. Third message. That's fantastic, Mark. I'd love to actually talk to you directly instead of me having to assume what you would say to me, but I can keep going like this if you want me to. So that's just a 3-message series of demonstrating how to carry on the conversation without them. That way you're still sending something, but it's not just repeating yourself, or you're coming up with something more clever and they're reading this chain and then they finally answer you. And I've had that work for me several different times. Okay, is this helpful? Let me know if this is helpful for you guys. Chatting yes if it's helpful. Okay. All right, now, I hope you got some great techniques today. We're going to have to end. All right, everybody. Was that good? What do you think? Coming back. Come on, camera. There we go. There's the camera. What do you think about that stuff? Did you grab some things you can take away today that you can start using to improve your messaging right away? I mean, I would assume that you did. Excellent. Okay, so I want to ask you this. Would you guys like to know more about training with us? Chat in yes for me if you'd like to know more about training with us. Okay, good. So I'm going to share my screen over here and just talk to you real quick about, basically we have a 12-week boot camp where we've taken our training system and we've put it into a 12-week boot camp. So obviously what we're talking about today is just simply the messaging part, right? How do you message people? How do you get them to respond to you? How do you get them to interact with you? Because, you know, obviously there's calling, scripting, what you say to people, but what you say to people is not the only important part. So there's what you say to people, how you respond to them when you're trying to conduct a sales conversation, get into a sales conversation, or what happens when they object to you, how you tee them up for an appointment, how you ask for that appointment. And that mixes in with what you're writing, right? So, you know, it's hard to sell somebody over text or hard to sell them over emails, but to get them onto the phone with you or get them to just break the ice and respond to you, it all goes together. So there's your scripting skills, there's your written skills, and then there's how you're using your CRM right now, and also how you've set up and how you execute your lead generation and how consistent you are with it. So we've packaged it up into a 12-week boot camp that we take students through, and we teach them our methodology for cutting edge conversations, written, spoken scripting, as well as written scripting, and show you how to improve the way that you're using your CRM, the way that you are attempting to convert your leads into appointments. So our training offer is for you if you can answer yes to both of the next 2 questions I'm going to ask you. I'm going to share a quick poll. Where's the poll? Here we go. Cool. So if you can say yes to these 2 questions, let's have a conversation about our 12-week boot camp, and you can get more details, decide whether it's right for you or not. So first question is, if our system can guarantee that you double your weekly appointments, could you invest at least $125 per week in it? US, my Canadians. So if you can answer yes to that first question, we'll move on to the next question, because you have to be able to invest in your business in order to improve your business. So next question is, do you believe that if you improved your sales skills, your consistency, and your CRM process, it'd be enough to finally hit your financial goals? So that's a yes or a no or a maybe. Maybe you're like, well, yes, but I would need more leads, or yes, but I would need more time. Yes, but I would need something else to happen. So do me a favor, check the poll. If you can answer yes to those 2 questions, we should jump on a Zoom call and talk about our 12-week boot camp. And basically, I'll get on with you, or my lead trainer, Lori, will get on with you, and we'll answer the questions about what content is covered in the boot camp, how it's delivered, how it works, and what the resources are that you have available to you. I can tell you that our boot camp, basically students in the boot camp can get training, live training with us, set 5 days a week. So all week long, every day, we have classes, we have training, and we take you through this 12-week boot camp. And at the end of that boot camp, if we've done our job, you feel absolutely confident getting into any conversation with any kind of lead type at any time. You're not afraid of any kind of objection that ever comes up from anyone. You also know how to orient yourself in any sales conversation so that you can get more appointments booked and close more deals. So answer yes or just answer the poll. Let me know if you're interested in talking about the boot camp. So I've got 2 answers on the poll so far. Who doesn't know where the poll is or can't find it? Let me open the chat again. David Beaton, did you answer the poll? Diane Fernandez, did you answer the poll? Carmen Zaharia, did you answer the poll? Gregory Eisert, did you answer the poll? Doug Hoved? Carmen Zaharia, did you answer the poll? Gabe Corridor. Okay, good. Because I only have 2 people that have answered the poll unless it's not updated. There we go, we got 3. Good. Okay. If you can't figure out where the poll is and you're interested in talking about the boot camp, if you can invest in your business, and if you believe that improving your sales skills and your lead conversion process is going to help you reach your goals, just drop your name and email into the chat and we'll reach out to you if you couldn't figure out where the poll is. Okay? All right, good. So do that for me. And yeah, thank you for joining me today. Hope you got a lot out of it and wish you guys luck. I'll see you in the next one.